Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Slamtown. I'm Mike Ginn. That's Dan Bakley. We're going to be talking all about January 1st, big match coming up for Pro Wrestling Noah. Of course, Great Muta on his farewell tour going against Shinsuke Nakamura. We'll talk all about that. But first, head on over to FightersFirst.shop. Get all the latest and greatest merch. Help support the show. Help support the brand. Let our apparel be a part of your story. Of course, I'm supporting Brandon today. Go get his merch. Brandon Catino, of course. Dan, how you feeling today, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready to talk about this crazy situation that we're getting on January 1st.
A real forbidden door.
Yeah.
Of course, we had the big pay-per-view. A lot of Japanese stars, especially New Japan, came over, fought some AEW stars at Forbidden Door. But not really many shows. Like they kind of bulked at doing a Forbidden Door 2 with sending people over to Japan to do a show. That's still, I guess, somewhat in the works, but not a priority for Tony Khan. Anybody that knows Shinsuke Nakamura and Great Muta know there is a history there from way back in the day. They had some intense matches a long time ago, back when Muta was still with New Japan. And then on top of that, of course, Shinsuke's obvious, Japanese heritage makes this a pretty intriguing matchup for January 1st. Before we get into the details of the match, what were your initial thoughts when they first announced, hey, we're getting Shinsuke and Great Muta on January 1st for part of his farewell tour?
First, I was shocked, and then I was excited. I was shocked because it's a WWE working with Noah on this. Because he just reiterated before he went on that Triple H is the one that called Noah, which is even better because it shows that Triple H wants to work with other companies. He wants to branch out where Vince didn't want to do that much because he was all about building the conglomerate and keeping everything in-house. I like the idea of working with other companies. It doesn't have to be big, just like something like this where it's one match here, over here. Then maybe you can send somebody over to us to do our storyline. And Shinsuke was a really big name in Japan, of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was a big-time IC champion over there. And Great Muta is a huge name, and he's going to be doing his last match in January against Sting. But he wanted to kind of check off some of these guys off of his box. Like you got Great Khan, he just did something with him, Sting, now Shinsuke. And I've been waiting for Shinsuke to come back to Japan for maybe like a match or two since he left there because
he did one. I think he did one or two when they did that short tour of Japan about 2 years before the pandemic.
Yeah, but like a high profile one in my opinion, and this is one of those. He's nicknamed the King of Strong Style in WWE for a reason because of when he came over here that everybody hasn't seen like a wrestler like that if you don't watch New Japan or No or Jersey Pro. And I'm just excited for this match, and it gives you like hope for the future that maybe there's other matches that you can bring out from just this one.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. One, this whole thing just got finalized on October 26th. There was some pushback from WWE, but Triple H did eventually concede and be like, all right, cool, I'll make the call. And because Triple H, for whatever you think of him personally, is a historian of the business. He knows the importance of certain things in the business. He clearly knows the importance of Great Muta. I'm not sure if their paths have ever crossed during his short time in WCW, but clearly Triple H knows the history of the business and how important Muta is to the business. Keiji Mutoh, Great Muta, one of those guys who's made a living not only doing multiple characters and kind of one more himself, one obviously the Great Muta, but he's done it in multiple promotions. He's done it obviously in America. He came over as part of like a talent exchange with New Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah, All Japan. He's pretty much wrestling all the major promotions in Japan, currently in Pro Wrestling Noah. The story with Shinsuke is a little bit more interesting because you have to go all the way back. I believe they fought in 2008 last, maybe. And it was one of those things where Shinsuke in 2003 was one of the youngest champions in New Japan history. You know, when he came up, not even a year into the business, I think, or a year into New Japan, he won the title, the IWGP heavyweight title. That said, you know, he has gone on to do a number of things, including even beating Kurt Angle. Yeah. After that, All Japan sent Muta in as like a cross promotion thing with New Japan, and then Muta won the title off of Shinsuke. So, if anything, this might be 14 years of revenge for Shinsuke.
Yeah.
From an American fan point, this sells, right? You got a wrestler famous in the WWE that a lot of people, even American fans, think is very underutilized, which I kind of find funny because he had a very long Intercontinental title run. It's just, it was during a time that the Intercontinental title wasn't as prioritized.
And it wasn't defended much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of was, but it just wasn't a main storyline, right? And then you got Muta, who, 38 years in this business, has done a lot, finishing up against one of his greatest rivals in Sting. But before that, he wants to go, like you said, he wants to go on a tour. He wants to check things off his bullet list, like all the things I didn't get to do or I want to do before I finish up. And Shinsuke's on that list. And, I'm excited for the fight. I'm excited for the match. There's nothing else announced so far on that card, but I'm sure Noah will fill it up as a big New Year's Day card. It worked out well that WWE canceled their own New Year's Day show that they normally run. They decided they're kind of making some of their events a little bit more important and less like smaller events. So we may be getting the King of the Ring back. We may be getting some of the other stuff, but matches like Hell in Cell now are part of another pay-per-view instead of their own pay-per-view. Money in the Bank will probably be moving back to WrestleMania like it used to be.
And then it also didn't help that with where WWE's premium live events are shown on Peacock, they'll have their own big event on New Year's, so they didn't want to cross promote against the same company that they're being broadcast on. Yeah, and it all kind of fell in place, right? So it made sense. Hey, we're not running the show; we're sending people home for the holidays for once. Which is something actually the AEW does as well. Like, gives last few years have given their whole roster like most of the holidays off. Yeah. They'll do some tapings, they'll bump them all together, and then, all right, cool, you guys go enjoy Christmas and New Year's with your family. WWE usually gives them like a week, like they'll like pre-tape something for Christmas week, and then after that they're like right back on the road. In this case, I think they're giving them a little bit more time. I know there is a major show on December 26th. In New York, they're doing Madison Square Garden. But after that, I think they're off for another week or so. So this gave Shinsuke time to do what he wants. He might already be going home to his family in Japan for Christmas time. So it's even better if he's already there. So it just works, Dan. It works on every level. My next question for you, though, really is, like I said, we talked about the Forbidden Door with AEW. Noah did reach out to AEW through Sonny Ono. To make sure there are no problems with this. AEW said they don't have any problems whatsoever with this. Because Tony Khan, despite whatever issues he's had recently with WWE, also understands the history of some of the business, and he doesn't want to get in the way of Great Muta's final tour. What are your thoughts on, is this a one-time thing? Or is this WWE finally saying, okay, we might not work with other American promotions, but we'll happily start working with some of the international ones? I don't think it's a one-time thing, and I've seen a lot of precursors to where maybe more can happen, because once this was announced, even New Japan has a storyline going on, and they kind of chimed in on this. You got Naito versus Ospreay for the United States title, and Ospreay made the comment. He was like, damn, you're getting Muta versus Shinsuke. We'd probably have Shinsuke Nakamura back in New Japan if it wasn't for Naito being selfish and taking away the IC title, because of course hinting at the fact that Shinsuke's synonymous with that IC title at Wrestle Kingdom. So I thought that was kind of a little bit funny, like foreshadowing that. It makes me think, okay, maybe there's a future with New Japan too. But it's like I got to see how this goes and how people take it in and how well it is with the viewers before I go even farther with that, because WWE, it's all about the viewership. And if this hits, then I could see more happening. Maybe they branch over to New Japan because there's a lot of cross promotion that could be done there.
Well, I mean, doesn't this all kind of go into WWE's global expansion, like what they're trying to do? Like they shut down NXT UK because they're really going to launch later this year a WWE Europe, like full scale, Italy, France, all that stuff.
I think it's just going to be the same thing as NXT UK, but their way of saying NXT, it's their way of moving where they tape things, and that's why they're going to call it.
What I was trying to get to is they tried to do Japan before and couldn't get in that market, and there are plans, according to Shawn Michaels, of trying Japan again. And if you do that, wouldn't it make sense to have a promotion? I mean, maybe they're the second or third promotion in Japan right now, but wouldn't it make sense to have them kind of in your back pocket to where, hey, we're going to go over here, and either they acquire Noah and turn that into NXT Japan, or acquire one of these other promotions and work closely with it versus having to launch their own. You kind of jump the line a little bit when you got something that's already existing. And you talk about the Peacock Network. You talk about WWE Network in most of the country, most of the world still exists outside where you don't have Peacock available. Sorry, I keep saying I know I keep saying but their WWE has been long since about global. They took over America. They want to take over the world. They are the only promotion that if you go to a different part of the world, they sell out immediately, right? Like you see it with Saudi Arabia coming up this weekend. You see it with when they go to England, in London, in the Castle. You see it when they go to Japan for a short tour. You see it when they go into Australia, like they used to go to Australia, and they used to go to China, and they used to go to all these other places when they go for like maybe a week here, week there, do a quick tour, pop back to America or maybe a TV taping there before they come back. And they sell out. Like people wait their whole lifetime to see WWE in the rest of the world because all they see is on TV. So when it comes
for the longest time, it was the only one on TV. Like you didn't have like TNA, Impact, and NWA, but those are more just like a national like thing in the United States. Where that's.
I mean, WCW did a good job in Japan, but they couldn't market anywhere else in the world. And AEW, for what they're doing in the last 3 years, is still a brand new company. They have some TV deals like India and some other places, but they don't have TV deals all over the world. They're still trying to expand like that. They do have deals in Europe. They do have deals in India. I want to say they have a deal in Asia as well, but I'm not 100% sure as far as like East Asia with Japan and China and all that stuff. But WWE has these relationships they've had for decades now, and they continue to build on. They continue to be a global powerhouse, kind of like how the UFC is in MMA, kind of like how, you see these marquee names, whether it's Hollywood with DC and Marvel, or wrestling world with WWE, or MMA with UFC. How sorry about that. And like I was saying, just some of these major American, what's the best way to put it? Conglomerates, like these big deals in America, travel well across the world, whether it's music, entertainment, film, wrestling, sports. So I think WWE has always considered themselves an entertainment company, at least in the last 20 years. And I think in order to be a global entertainment company like they want, they need these relationships. And I think that's when it works. And I do want to point out, we keep saying Great Muta and Sting. They are a tag team on January 22nd in his final match. They just haven't announced their final opponents on that.
Okay.
What do you think? Because we keep talking about Triple H being a cerebral assassin and kind of having these takeover plans for the world. But we haven't really talked about much to do with the rest of the Forbidden Door because, for instance, AEW still consistently bringing in Japanese talent. Stuff like Shibata's working right now with AEW for a couple shows.
Well, which is a big thing because he's a guy that was injured. We didn't think we'd ever see it again, and then he came back, said, "I'm good." He did Wrestle Kingdom, and then he kind of teased this with Orange Cassidy. But then we at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, we never saw him again until now, which is kind of cool because it's at the same time that his big protege Ren Narita is just getting going in New Japan.
Well, I wanted to ask you. I was going to ask you basically is the Forbidden Door, is that just a term that's just outdated at this point? Is the door just kicked wide open?
I think it's kind of outdated. I think it was coined by Hiroshi Tanahashi. He kind of coined it when he came over and whatnot. He said the Forbidden Door, and it was just a thing that stuck because it coined the phrase of something that you didn't expect to happen because it's different promotions that never worked, and it just stuck. And I think it is outdated. I think now you're getting to a point to where maybe all these promotions can work together now in some kind of fashion.
See, for me, the Forbidden Door at this point would be if AEW and WWE had a match. There's been some people that have gone and done promos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if there was a match, now to me that's a Forbidden Door. New Japan versus All Japan or Noah, that's a Forbidden Door because these promotions going internationally, and we talked about this. We talked about Art of MMA too with Brandon and Ryzen and Bellator, and having that big match. But you don't see
even recently on a lower scale, MLW just announced its partnership with Dragon Gate. Mm-hmm. So that's on a lower scale, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, you just don't see American companies working with American companies because of ego, of pride. Who are you going to put over? We don't want our champion to look weak against your champion.
Yeah.
Everything's based on storylines. It's based on ego, right? It's all based on ego. And that's from the beginning of time. Anytime you'd have somebody going from territory to territory, are we going to put you over in our own territory, or are you going to put our guy over as you're traveling? Ric Flair famously, he did a great job of navigating that. And he might have been the only one that could have done it because he'd let your champion beat him, and then he'd get the belt back a week later or a month later and get title reign number 955 or whatever it technically is.
I think the last time we seen a good one was when it was Cody Rhodes against Nick Aldis with the NWA 10 pounds gold, and Nick Aldis let Cody beat him on an AEW show at All In, but then they did the NWA show. I think it was 70, best 2 out of 3, I think it was, and that's when Nick Aldis a month later took back the title.
Yeah, and you know what? That's territory wrestling right there. Yeah. That's hey, we're going to travel. We're going to showcase certain talent. I put you over. You put me over. Yeah. And everybody wins, right? And storylines don't get hurt because the whole stigma that losses count in wrestling, that's only for a Goldberg, a Jade Cargill, people that have these so-called Tatanka back in the day, people that have undefeated streaks that they've built up, then the loss matters. Everybody else, you win, you lose, you go about your business, and next week you build up the more on the storyline, right? Right now, the hottest thing in WWE is Sami Zayn. If Sami Zayn lost a match, nobody's going to care if he lost. It's about his character and the way he's built it up. If Roman Reigns lost, then it matters. Yeah. It depends on the character. It depends on how it's built up. But I think when you're traveling, I think the worst thing in the world was when you have these characters that are built as unbeatable. Because let's look at The Fiend. The Fiend had this character where he's built as unbeatable. He goes, loses to Goldberg, right? And now all of a sudden his character's ruined. Because now all of a sudden, what? What are you going to do with this? Yeah. You go with somebody like Shinsuke, who, kind of circle back full circle. It doesn't matter if he loses to Muta. It doesn't really matter if he beats Muta. It matters that they're having this epic showdown of two people from two different worlds. Basically, Shinsuke coming home, Muta on his final tour, and it's about the moment. Doesn't matter who wins the match.
It creates money.
It creates buzz. It creates views, it creates advertiser money, and it's about the moment. And I think that's what gets lost in wrestling so much. I think Tony Khan has done a pretty good job. See, people, I don't ever say something nice about Tony. I'm about to say something nice about Tony. He does a pretty good job of building up moments sometimes, especially with some of his returns and some of his pops. Triple H has done that recently, taking over, building up moments with returns and pops. But very rarely do we see that with a match. We saw the last time I really remember that was The Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania in Toronto. Yeah. And that's how far back I have to go mentally to say, all right, here's two people from two different worlds. And yeah, I know they were both WWE, but Hogan had just kind of come back from WCW and the NWO and all that stuff. And it kind of felt like he was still an outsider, even though he clearly built WWF and WWE. You see it with a little bit to an extent, Bryan Danielson, when he had the Grand Slam match with Kenny Omega. It kind of felt like that. But once again, that was two people in the same promotion. It didn't matter who won the match. It mattered about the moment. So I think that's a big deal for this match coming up on New Year's Day. I also want to say they have worked out the deal with Carl Anderson. They haven't announced officially, but it looks like he will be dropping the title at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because I actually thought, because they're actually going to be in New York, I believe, for like a couple shows after November 5th, between that and Wrestle Kingdom, where he could have dropped it on one of the New Japan Strong shows. But they want to have the big moment too, right? Like they want the big moment of him dropping the title on a big show. They couldn't do it on the 5th because obviously there's Saudi Arabia. So they're going to do it at Wrestle Kingdom like Anderson wanted to do to begin with, because guess what? Much like everybody else in this business, Carl Anderson wants a payday too. And Wrestle Kingdom is one of the biggest paydays in Japan. I'll give you your final thoughts on everything going on.
Yeah, I like the way that they worked it out. They were able to plug it in. Yujiro Takahashi will face Hikuleo, and it's just they're playing the game of cat and mouse with Hikuleo, and it's going to create the moment even better for him to win it on a bigger scare, because he's going to finally get his hands on him and get the title, and that's the way you build him, and then you allow Carl Anderson to get paid with Wrestle Kingdom, and then he'll primarily do WWE. But I'm looking forward to seeing this match, see how they gel together after not wrestling with each other for over 10, 15 years.
14 years.
That's a long time.
14 years,
yeah. That's a long time, and both of these guys have redeveloped how they wrestle in that time. Of course, Muta is a lot older, and then Shinsuke Nakamura is more savvy. He's a veteran now instead of just like an up-and-comer coming in there. And he has developed a whole new style from now to then, being over in America and being more popular with the crowds and being able to get his face out there on a world scale instead of just on the national scale in Japan.
I wish he had came out with the old. I know he's been using this mask for a while, but I wish he had came out with the old face paint.
Yes, and I agree. And then of course, whenever I think of Great Muta, I think of Tajiri. I think of him being like the WWE version of him, doing the same move set, the same
like the
spin the mist,
the cruiserweight version.
Yeah, the cruiserweight version. So it's like, it's going to be nice to watch this match. I'm definitely going to catch it. I'll buy that pay-per-view just to watch that match.
I mean, it'll be available here on Fight TV. So I mean,
which is going to be good. I'm hoping to see more of this. Like, I know there's been teasing now that they came out and said Shibata would like to face Bryan Danielson, and it was him and Orange Cassidy were the two names that he pinned. And so I'm looking forward to maybe we get that Danielson and Shibata because of the contrast of styles. And look, I'm all about this cross promotion, these big time matches that you never thought you would get. And if this is the start of it, like, I'm not going to say the start, but this is the true start of it, then sign me up.
It reminds me of the 90s.
Yeah.
Where we were so saturated with wrestling content. WWE, WWF, WCW. You had, the people that traded tapes and stuff. We had New Japan. We had All Japan. ECW was on at like midnight on certain channels. Like, you had to look for it, but it was a thing. And early in mid 2000s, we had TNA, we had Ring of Honor, we had all this other stuff. But then there was a while where it was just WWE. And it's nice to be getting back to a point where we can talk about professional wrestling as professional wrestling and not necessarily always about how one storyline affects one promotion. And now it's like, okay, these are stars, and these are stars that are traveling here and there. And I just think it's really cool. I mean, it's titled this show, The Forbidden Door is Getting Kicked Wide Open, because it really isn't a forbidden door anymore. Now at this point, it's just whose ego is willing to step aside to make better business. And I think Triple H is about business. I think he's about making the best product. And I think he's about building WWE into this global like juggernaut. And in order to do that, you have to have friends all over the world. You can't just be one company running everything.
And that's where I think New Japan has done a great job with that. You looked at the Best of Super Juniors. They had guys from AEW, CMLL. They had a guy from Noah, of course, New Japan, Impact. And then they did the same thing with the G1. And I think once that happened, I truly feel like Triple H took notice of that and wanted to get a piece of that in his own way. Like, he's not going to do it the same exact way, but he's going to do it in like small increments.
Well, I mean, the person you have to think is Sonny Ono.
Yeah,
I mean, he did it in WCW
with Eric Bischoff.
He was the go between Bischoff in Japan and Inoki, just like Conan was for the Mexican wrestlers coming in and out of WCW. And now Sonny Ono, throughout the years, whether it was in TNA, now with AEW and even WWE, he's the liaison. He's the guy that goes between, because he's the one that also speaks perfect English. He's the one that lives here in America and then has those relationships back home. So he's the perfect guy, and he's been behind the scenes. Like, we haven't seen him in front of camera since the 90s. But the guy is the one that's been pulling these puppet strings, making all this magic happen. So I thank him for everything he's been doing.
Yeah, he was the guy who's doing it. Now, like the present day, you got Rocky Romero. He's one of the guys that does it in the present day with AEW New Japan, because he can speak both languages. He primarily works with New Japan, but then he comes over here. Like, I applaud those guys that try and make this happen with all these different promotions. And then there's talks about there's somebody that's trying to do it with AEW and WWE and New Japan, where it's like, maybe like it's not like a one-on-one, where maybe it's a thing where you get three companies working together that way. It's not like one-on-one with WWE and AEW. And then maybe that's a way that you get that to work the first time.
Yeah, I mean, look, we always wonder if All Japan is dead at this point, but it does still have shows from here and there.
Yeah.
Noah's come on strong over the last couple years. We'll talk more about Muta's final tour especially in January. But I'm excited for it. Dan's excited for it. Leave a comment. Let us know. What do you think about everything? Are you excited about it? What do you think about the Forbidden Door? What do you think about this cross-promotion internationally? And leave a comment. Do you think it ever will happen outside of like NWA, who wants to work with everybody? But like on the major scale, will we ever see a match between a WWE star and an AEW star in either promotion? I say no. I think that's just a door that will stay shut no matter how much they exchange talent for interviews and promos. I just don't think they'll actually ever see a match. But leave a comment. Let us know. This is Slamtown. I'm Mike Ginn. That's Dan Bakley. We'll see you soon. We're out.